everybody, it's Mel. Thank you so much for joining me today for my February TBR game. So you may actually already know, but I have 2 TBR games that I have been playing over the last few years to determine what books I'm going to read every month. This year in 2024, I decided to play both TBR games and to alternate the months that I play them. So in January I played Roll of Reads, and then in February I am going to play TBR Campaign. Both games are loosely based on Dungeons and Dragons, but TBR Campaign is quite a bit more based on Dungeons and Dragons. I've set up my phone and the game board and everything on a table just next to me, so I'm not going to be able to show you the game board, like physically hold it up, but I will pop an image of it up here on the screen. Basically, this game, you follow the path and go on an adventure. When you land on the different icons, and then you have to do different things in order to determine what books you're going to have to read. So I'll go through and let you know what all of the different icons on the different spaces mean, and then I'll let you know about rewards and punishments, and then a couple of other things about what I'm planning, hoping, need to read in February, and then we'll go ahead and play the game. Alright, so as you can see, there are a bunch of different icons like I just mentioned on the board. I start at start, obviously, and I roll a d20, and whatever number I roll, that's how many spaces I move along on the different spaces on the board. If I land on the sword square, that is a battle square, and what that means is that I have to choose 2 books that will battle against each other. So I choose one book that I really do want to read and one book that maybe I'm not as interested in reading in February. I'm going to roll a d20 twice, attribute each different roll to one of the books. Whichever roll gets the highest number on the d20, that is the book that I'm going to read in February. If I land on any of the character squares, so character squares, we have dwarf, halfling, elf, gnome, human, orc, and half-elf. They are all to do with genres or format of books. I do also have character class spaces. So again, this is based on Dungeons and Dragons, the different characters and the different classes that you have that you can play. So the class squares are the different careers essentially that you can have with your character. The square that I land on for that is the dice, and if I do land on the dice, then I have to roll a d10, and whichever number I roll on correlates to a different type of class, and then each class has a specific prompt. If I land on a dragon, then that's a mood read. If I land on the square with the stepping stones, that is a travel square, and that means that I need to pick a card out of these cards and do whatever the prompt is on that card. When I get to the end square, that is also a mood read, except that unlike the mood read where I can pick whatever I want, however I want in the month, the end square I pick today. Now, if I roll a 1, that is a punishment square, and I've actually changed the way that works, and you'll see why in a minute. And if I roll a 20, that is a reward square, and again, I've changed that a little bit as well, and you will see why right now, because I'm going to tell you about rewards and punishments. For reading last month's TBR, I have totally taken away punishments and rewards for that. I am, or used to be, much more of a mood reader, and in the sort of latter half of 2024, I was a lot more relaxed and let myself do a lot more mood reading, and I really enjoyed it. But I also really do like making these TBR games. I really enjoy having an idea of things I might like to read, having a guide, and I just enjoy the games in general. They are very popular, which helps as well. So I want to keep making the games, but I'm just scrapping punishments for not reading books on my TBR. It's not to say that I won't read the books on my TBR, but it just means that I'm not going to be punished for not. Otherwise, I just end up with a huge stack of books that I have to read, and then I don't feel like I can mood read. I feel like I have to be really regimented in what I'm reading, and I was really enjoying the mood reading, going back to doing that. So yeah, it's just more of a guideline now. But I'm going to have reward and punishment within the game. So if I land on a 1, just like in Roll of Reads, that's a punishment, and on my phone I have 2 different spinner wheels. I have a rewards spinner wheel and a punishment spinner wheel, so I will do that. If I roll either a 1 or a 20, because in the actual game of Dungeons and Dragons, if you, particularly in battle, they're important, but if you roll a 1, that's a critical fail and it means something not great happened to you. And if you roll a 20, that's a critical hit, and that means it's fantastic. So yeah, I thought it would fit in quite well in the game. Also, in terms of rewards and punishments, if I land on the same icon twice, like the second time, then I had in the past needed to go back 2 spaces, but this time I will just roll the punishment wheel again. But that's only for so if I land on a, I don't know, an elf, and then the next roll I land on an elf, then I do the punishment wheel. If the next roll I land on an elf, it has started again. So I'd have to land on an elf a 4th time in order to get another punishment wheel for elf, if that makes sense. But yeah. Anyway, so yeah, that is the game. That is how we're going to play, and that is what I'm about to do in a minute. So like I said, I'm alternating, so I'm not going to go through the books that I've read from my January TBR, partly because that is Roll of Reads, and partly because I'm actually filming this on the 15th of January. I've got a few things coming up. I'm going away, I've got my nephew coming to stay, different things happening in the latter half of January, which is going to make filming this TBR later quite difficult, but because there's no punishments, it doesn't really matter. So I'm filming it quite early, which is why I can't really tell you. But in my wrap up for January, that's where I'll let you know how the TBR for January went. So keep an eye out for that. And yeah. So I mentioned that I have a few other things that I need to talk you through before I move on to the actual game. So the first thing is that I forgot to mention this in Roll of Reads of January, so if you watch that, I apologise. So this year, in 2024, I've decided that I'm going to be doing some rereads, because I used to be a lot more of a rereader than I have become since I joined BookTube. In my teens and early 20s, I was more of a rereader than I was actually a new book reader. In the last sort of 15-20 years, I've become much more of a reading a lot more stuff I hadn't read before, but I still used to reread a lot. And then I started doing BookTube, and because you make BookTube, you therefore watch a lot of BookTube, so you find out a lot about a lot of books that sound really fun, that are coming out, that are new. And also you want to be part of the conversation, so you don't necessarily want to do as many rereads, especially if the books that you are more familiar with, that you maybe reread often or what have you, are books that maybe aren't as popular anymore or aren't as well known, etc. But anyway, while I've been making my BookTube and finding books that I'm claiming are favourites of the year or favourites of all time or what have you, I have come across favourites of, you know, certain years and just in general, but I haven't reread them to kind of double check, do they stand up? Are they really truly favourites, or are they just books that I liked at the time, etc. So I have a whole list of books that I want to reread in 2024. So the plan is that I have my spinner wheel with each book, and every month in the TBR game, I will do the spinner wheel and we will see what book I'm going to reread in that month. So in January, I spun and I got Kindred by Octavia Butler, and I've taken that off the spinner wheel now. I actually already did the spin, so I'll show you the clip of Mel doing the spin in a second, and we'll see what book I have to read in February for my reread, and then I'll talk to you about some of the books that are either mandatory or that I'd like to get to, and yeah, we'll take it from there. So as you just saw, the book that I need to reread in February is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V. Schwab. I'm really excited about this. I loved this book when I read it 2020, I think, maybe 2021. I don't know, it feels like quite a long time ago now, and I haven't reread it, so I really want to check in and see, do I still love it? Is it still a favourite? I'm expecting to really enjoy it, but we'll see how we go. So that is the first book that I definitely need to read in February. I should just mention that because I'm no longer doing punishments for not reading previous month's books, it does mean that I am less concerned with getting the books that I need to read for whatever reason on the TBR. But I still try. So let's see how we go. All right, then next up, the next book that I am very much hoping to be able to pick up is the Patreon book club book for Bethany from Beautifully Bookish Bethany's Patreon. So the book for February is The Hurricane Wars by Thea Guanzon. I apologize, that is probably not how you say that name. I'm very sorry. Yeah, I should have checked, but anyway, The Hurricane Wars. I don't know a lot about this one. I believe it is young adult, possibly romantasy, possibly fantasy with a little bit of romance. But either way, I did see it in the bookstore a couple of times and thought it sounded somewhat interesting. Then for my read-along of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy series by Douglas Adams, we are reading The Restaurant at the End of the Universe. So I will link my announcement video in the description below, along with my 4 co-hosts who are helping me to run this read-along. We are having a fantastic time. All the people that have joined us, I'm hoping they seem to be having a fantastic time. I am loving my reread. My amazing co-hosts are Ren from The Reading Ren, Chelsea from Chelsea Zhao, Ash from Ash's Adventures in Books, Ashley from Ashley's Media Addiction, and that's everybody. I will link their channels down below as well. You should definitely go and subscribe to them. They are wonderful, as is anyone else that I talk about in this video. I definitely need to read The Restaurant at the End of the Universe in February. Then I have 2 buddy reads that I'm doing in February. So the first of those is I will be buddy reading Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin with my friend Michelle. I believe this is a literary fiction about people who work in the gaming, like computer gaming industry. But yeah, I've heard really great things about it. So many people loved this book last year and the year before, and I'm super excited to read it and see what I think. Yeah, I'll be buddy reading this with my friend Michelle, which is really fun. So that one definitely has to be read in February as well. And then we said we were supposed to be buddy reading this in January, but then Alison, who I'm buddy reading it with, forgot that she hadn't read the book before it. So we decided to put it off to February, and that is Defiant.
Hello. So, editing Mel here. Sorry about the cold sore and the general unkempt look, but anyway, this is what we're working with right now. I realised after I filmed this initially, but didn't quite get a chance to jump in and change it, so we're doing that now, that the book that I'm buddy reading with my friend Alison is incorrect. We put it off. We're not reading Defiant in February. We're going to read House of Flame and Shadow by Sergio Mas, which is the 3rd Crescent City book. And then we will read Defiant in March, I think. So, yeah.
I think that is everything that I need to tell you about before we go ahead and play the game. Yes. Yes, yes, that is everything. You probably were not at all fooled, but whenever I played the game before, I did all the rolls first and then came back and tried to pretend I hadn't. But this time I'm going to be doing them concurrently because I've actually got to set up with a new tripod and my phone to film the rolls. So let's go ahead and do that now, and then we'll figure out what book I'm going to read for whatever we get. So yeah, we'll do that now. Okay, so we have not very exciting, but just a little pebbly type thing, and the D20. So let's roll our first roll. 17. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Alright, a dwarf. So, as you just saw, the first roll that I got, I actually rolled quite high. I got a 17. That landed me on a dwarf. So, that means I need to read a classic or a non-fiction, and I actually just filmed my 2024 Shelf Destruct video, and one of the books that is on that list is a non-fiction. So I'll just grab that and I'll make that the book for dwarf. So that book is Truganini by Cassandra Pybus. So this is a biography of Truganini. Truganini was an Indigenous Australian who lived here in Tasmania. She lived on Bruny Island, and it says that she wandered across Cassandra Pybus's ancestors' farm on Bruny Island in the 1850s and 60s. For nearly 7 decades, Truganini lived through a psychological and cultural shift more extreme than we can imagine. Hardly more than a child, Truganini managed to survive the devastation of the 1820s when the clans of southeastern Tasmania were all but extinguished. So I think it's going to be really, really hard hitting, but I think it's going to be really, really interesting, very important, the kind of book that we should all be reading if we are Australian and indeed in general. But yeah, so I definitely think this is an important one to get to, and it is my first book of TBR Campaign for Dwarf for non-fiction. So let's go now and do roll number 2. Okay, roll number 2. 19. Gosh, we are rolling very high today. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. A travel card. Alright. Okay, so as you just saw, I rolled really high again. I got a 19, which landed me on a travel card. So that means that I need to shuffle these cards and then pick one of the cards and do whatever the prompt says. So I'll shuffle the cards now. I did shuffle them a little bit before, so I'm not going to give them a really, really excellent shuffle today or right now, but they have been shuffled. So just to let you know. And let's pick this one. Colour wheel pick. So I'm going to bring up a colour wheel. I'm going to do it on the computer because my phone is currently in use. So hopefully I can show you guys that. Alright, so we have a spin, colour spinner. Sorry about the reflection. Alright. Let's spin. Purple! My favourite colour. Okay, and the colour that we spun was purple. I think I know what I'm going to do. So, hang on a second, I'll grab the book. Okay, so, the book that I've decided to go with is White Smoke by Tiffany D. Jackson. This is a young adult horror, I believe. The renowned picture-perfect home on Maple Street, sitting between dilapidated houses, has its secrets. Household items vanish, doors open on their own, lights turn off, shadows walk past rooms, voices can be heard in the walls, and there's a foul smell seeping through the vents. Worse, Piper keeps talking about a friend who wants Mari gone. Yeah, so I've heard really great things about Tiffany D. Jackson's writing. I've heard great things about this book. This was sent to me by a Secret Santa that was done through Bethany's Patreon for Christmas, which means that it's a book that I received recently. I'm trying to be a bit better about reading books that I received recently, as well as the backlist books, but I don't want to let books become backlist books. So I'm really excited to dive in. It's not super long. It's 370 odd pages long, but it is young adult, so I'm expecting it'll be reasonably quick. But yeah, it sounds really, really cool. I love the cover, I love the purple, and yeah, that's the next book. Okay, let's do, are we only on roll number 3? Wow, okay, let's do roll number 3. Alright, so this could actually be the final roll, because I'm not that far from the end. Let's see. 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This roll we landed on a dragon, which is a mood read, but I've decided that I'm trying to do more of those anyway. So I think I might just grab a few books that I would like to try and get to, and I will, yeah, they can be my potential mood reads. Obviously we do have Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Defiant. We also have the Hurricane Wars, and we also have Hitchhikers, Restaurant at the End of the Universe, so all of those could classify as mood reads, but give me a minute and I'll show you some others that I'd like to try and read. So I have got 4 books here that I would love to read at some point reasonably soon, so I will pop them on as potential rereads in February. 2 of those I have purchased quite recently. One I purchased earlier in 2023. The other one I think was sent to me, I'm pretty sure it was a Christmas present for the end of 2022, but I've been hearing really good things about it recently. So that is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. I think this is kind of a magical realism / potentially dark academia style book. It is about Emily Wilde, who is a scholar writing the world's first encyclopedia of fairy lore. And then there is a love interest / rival. I've been hearing amazing things about it. Quite a few people read it and had it as one of their favourites of 2023. So yeah, that is definitely an option. I think it sounds fantastic and I'm excited to give that one a try. Then a book that I bought April or so is The Bookbinder of Jericho by Pip Williams. You guys probably have heard me talk about this quite a bit recently, and you heard me talk about her other book, which is The Dictionary of Lost Words, which I absolutely loved. It was one of my favourite books 2022, I think, and this is by the same author. This is about a young woman, or 2 young women called Peggy and Maud, who are twin sisters who work at the bindery at Oxford University Press in Jericho. The year is 1914, so it is a little bit of a feminist kind of take on history, and yeah, I think it will be really, really interesting, really fun. I love her writing style and definitely keen to read it soon. Another book that I will have talked about recently is Atalanta by Jennifer Saint. This is a retelling of the myth of Atalanta, who was the first, or the only, I should say, female Argonaut, with Jason and the Argonauts and the Golden Fleece. Jennifer Saint is an author that I absolutely love. I love the way she writes. I love her writing style, I love her characters, and I love her myth retellings. So I'm very excited to read this one. These little covers are just gorgeous. So that's definitely an option as well. And then we have Inkblood Sister Scribe by Emma Tors. This one is I think it's another paranormal type, potentially dark academia type one, but it's also got a murder mystery in it as well. It sounds fantastic and I'm very, very keen to read this one as well. So that's a potential as well. Now, I'm on the second to last place. So I feel like there's no point in rolling because I'm just going to end up, whatever I roll, I can land there even if it's a 1. But maybe I should roll a 1 just in case I get the punishment. Shall I do that? Let's do that, just in case. Alright, let's roll a 10. So I got 10, which means I'm straight on to End. And as you know, End is also a mood read, but I have to pick it now. It doesn't matter as much now that I'm not doing punishments, but I figure that I'll just pick one of the books I was just talking about and name that one. So I'm going to go with Atalanta by Jennifer Saint. So I hope I've not forgotten anything. I'm pretty sure I haven't. I'm pretty sure that's everything that I needed to tell you about today. So that's the game. That's my TBR. I really only have these 3 books here that are definitely on the TBR, and then I have a few maybes and a few that I really need to get to. So including the maybes, but not including Restaurant at the End of the Universe or Hurricane Wars, this is my TBR. So I have Bethany's book club, which is Hurricane Wars, and Restaurant at the End of the Universe as well. And then my 3 maybes, I have Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, The Bookbinder of Jericho, and Inkblood Sister Scribe. Those are the potential mood reads. My buddy reads in February, Tomorrow, and Defiant. My non-fiction square, my dwarf, is Truganini. My end is Atalanta, and colour wheel pick is White Smoke. So yeah, that's everything that I need to talk to you about today. If you have any thoughts on any of the books I'm thinking about reading, on the game, on the new rules, please comment all of that down in the comments below. If you'd like to leave me a comment but you don't know what, then leave me a a dwarf emoji, if such a thing exists, because I landed on a dwarf. All of my social media details are listed in the description below, so if you'd like to come follow me on any of those other platforms, please feel free to do so. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I would absolutely love it if you would subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up. And yeah, like I said, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time.